So I'm Julie Sandine. I'm Assistant Dean for Student Affairs at Vanderbilt University Law School. And I've been in this position since July of 2002. Prior to that, I taught legal writing from 95 to 2002 and also had a half-time law job with Dodson, Parker and Bem, a Nashville firm here in the city. And I kind of underwent my transformation to a lawyer in a different way. I was involved in women's health care for a number of years after getting a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in sociology, and was executive director of a feminist women's clinic for a number of years. And then moving to North Carolina, got involved in rape crisis intervention in addition to women's health care. And all of those things kind of inspired me to go to law school. And luckily there was a good law school there, so I went to Wake Forest. And after graduating, my husband and I ended up in Tennessee. And I was fortunate enough to find an unusual situation here, teaching legal writing after finishing a clerkship with a federal judge. I was very excited about taking on this position because I remembered vividly how difficult law school was for me emotionally, and I thought that I should be better able to deal with this situation because I went to law school later in life after having had a number of career incarnations, and so I thought I should have the maturity and ability to deal with the situation better than anybody else. And yet I found myself kind of being swept into this competitive vortex. And one of the examples I give the students when I talk to them about this now is, I knew that I was not the kind of person who wanted to work for a big firm, big New York law firm in Park Avenue or whatever. And I wanted to do public interest law, and I knew I didn't have the temperament to work in a big law firm. And yet I found myself thinking, oh, I should try to get one of those jobs just to prove I could do it. And then finally I stepped back and I said, wait a minute. You know that doing that would make you miserable, and you know that would make you unhappy and not be fulfilling, and yet you still want to prove that you can do it. Why would you ruin a whole summer just to prove you can do something that you really don't want to do anyway? And that's really what kind of made me think about how why it's easy for a lot of students, especially those who are just coming right out of undergraduate school, get swept into that vortex. Because here I was with life experience and maturity and a supportive husband, so I didn't really have to worry about, debt, school debt, and yet I still find myself kind of following in that same path. So that was part of what made me realize that I wanted to address some of these issues that students are facing, in addition to the whole competitiveness, as well as the increased stress levels. And Vanderbilt is a smaller school, and basically we're a kinder, gentler law school, and our students really get along very well, so we don't have the same kind of competitive problems that a lot of places have. Students help each other, they share notes, they don't hide books, they're very generous with their time and are willing to help each other. They're mainly competitive with regard to themselves, but still students have a lot of angst about the experience, especially in the first year. So I thought about trying to make a difference and change, and so I did things like have a time management workshop and a stress management workshop, and the problem was that the time management workshop, nobody came because they didn't feel like they had time, and the stress management workshop, people didn't come because it would stress them out too much to not be studying. So anyway, I didn't really know how else to deal with the problem. But then I went to the first AALS meeting in January of 2000 and, let's see, what year was it? I think 2006. And at that conference, Larry Krieger presented his research on law student stress, and also Andy Benjamin presented his research on lawyer stress and also law student stress. And so I was able to start thinking about it in a more empirical way and think about, okay, maybe by using this kind of research we can figure out exactly what steps can be taken that might make a difference for the students. So luckily at that meeting, there was an informal get-together of Larry and Susan Dykoff and some other people who are all concerned about humanizing legal education, because we'd seen the negative effects and also experienced them ourselves. And at this informal meeting, everybody just decided, let's get together as a group. And so every year from then on, we got together at the ALS meeting and talked about things that we could do, and ultimately Larry was able to get the section created, Balance in Legal Education. So it's been in existence for 2 years now, and the 2 programs in the past 2 years have been really, really great. So that's been an exciting change, and also given me a lot of ideas and resources, because I tried to use a lot of the things that Larry presented in his research in figuring out ways that we could try to make a difference for our students. In the meantime, I also had a conversation with a psychiatrist at Vanderbilt who she was talking to me a lot about mindfulness meditation. And she actually gave me a copy of an article on mindfulness-based stress reduction in medical schools, which was research done that demonstrated a statistically significant reduction in stress among medical students. And so, thinking about that, knowing that cardio is the best exercise, but people are not going to spend an hour a day, especially when time is at a premium. But mindfulness meditation only takes 10 to 20 minutes a day, and if there can be a positive effect from that, then wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? And so I started to look into that a little bit more, and actually even spoke with Dean Rubin about it, because he'd taken over the deanship at that time. In the meantime, I'd also had some conversations with Dave Sharon, who was thinking about trying to do some research here at the law school on positive psychology, and certainly those techniques could also be used to try to help deal with the stress. And while that didn't work out, we ended up incorporating a number of lectures that Dave Sharon did on positive psychology in our orientation, and then also, in programming throughout the year. And I think the students really responded well to those kinds of programs. And then also, I received approval to have a non-credit offering that we decided to call Supportive Practices, which basically involved these 2 wonderful teachers of yoga and mindfulness practice, Gordon Pierman and his wife Kathy Woods. And so they came in and did, basically, they actually did 2 sections. The first year was 1 section, but they taught the students mindfulness meditation, and then some Qigong, and also cognitive strategies to use. And so how we offered this to the students was we offered them the option of signing up for this class. It's a non-credit offering, meeting once a week for 10 weeks. And then there was also a second non-credit offering that we called Ethics and Professionalism that was taught by Josh Perry and me. And we were hoping that these small group settings would afford students the opportunity to talk about a lot of these issues. And students could sign up for either one of these, and we had such great response that we ended up having to do a lottery. So we did a lottery, and there were 30 students in the supportive practices, and then 30 students in the ethics and professionalism. And so we've been able to recreate those programs for the past 3 years. And for the supportive practices program, we also got approval to have 5 weeks in the second semester, which also encompassed the time when grades were released. And so that was seemed to be beneficial for the students, because it helped prepare them and then also helped them with strategies for how to deal with the unpleasant news, because for these students, this might be the first time in their lives that they're getting anything but an A.